Hello and welcome to our radio. Today is 21st December 2020 and we have a lot of things to talk about. The first article tells us about the lows or the negatives in the Indian healthcare system. First, we have to understand that our Indian healthcare system 70% comprises of private hospitals and 30% comprises of public hospitals. 80% of people don't have any protection for their healthcare and 62% is the out-of-pocket expenditure that all people go through. The public spending or the spending as a percentage of GDP is just 1.13% with huge shortage of healthcare workers like doctors, nurses, midwives, etc. and some unsound policies as well. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed our healthcare system and spoke about what are the exact things that we need and how we will get it. We have to understand that 85% of the population in India cannot afford high-cost corporate private healthcare, and this high-cost corporate healthcare comprises of specialists, doctors, emergency medical services, etc. Since they can't afford it, what they rely on is insurance, and here's when social insurance schemes comes into picture. Now, firstly, we can talk about the Ayushman Bharat scheme. Under the Ayushman Bharat scheme, there are 12 crore card holders, but only 1.27 crore people have taken the advantage of the Ayushman Bharat scheme. Now, private sector healthcare is completely driven by profitability and returns on capital, and this insurances provides them incentives to expand bills. And though they expand the bills, though they take up the insurances, the patients don't get the attentive or the right kind of attention that they're supposed to get from the hospitals. Apart from this, a lot of services are denied on the insurances. A lot of services are not at all available on insurances. Though social insurance has solved the problem of equilibrium in the country, but then the asymmetric nature and the associated hazards still remain. A lot of people cannot afford it, some people can afford it, and even those who can afford it don't get the best from it. This leads us to what we can talk about: health economics. Now, if we talk about the health economics, the competitive equilibrium often does not exist when it comes to health economics in the country. And this is predominantly because of the behavior of the corporate hospitals who are skewed or particularly inclined towards profitability. And those people who are getting benefits from this are the rich and the advantageous sections and not the poor people. These poor people are just getting crowded out because of this problem. Nextly, we can talk about the insurance for tertiary and secondary healthcare, which is the long-term thing, and people don't have access to that. Most people don't have access to that. And then primary healthcare is severely neglected, and insurance also comes into picture purely from the point of view of profit, purely from the point of view of you can say capital returns. Now, India's healthcare system has this 80:20 rule. The 20% of the people, or the 20 in this 80:20, are those who can afford modern healthcare system in the corporate hospitals. In 80, there are two people. The first 40% cannot afford this system at all. No matter what, they cannot afford this system. And the rest of the 40%, they pay the bills with full difficulty. They push the envelope and they pay the bills. And they slowly slide into the bracket of poverty. Now, because of the problem of access, affordability, absence of quality manpower and rent-seeking behavior, people mostly rely on smaller doctors, or they rely on what you call as chemists or these medical shops that they go to. And these people give them what you say as antibiotics and steroids for quick relief, and the massive consumption of this has led us to antimicrobial resistance, which is like a hidden pandemic where this bacteria or the microbes have developed resistance to the antibiotics that we consume. It's a bigger problem that we are all suffering from. Now, there are three solutions to deal with this particular problem, the author is saying. The three solutions start with the first. The first one is, what we can do is we can ramp up the number of doctors with counterpart obligations to serve in rural areas. So, we can increase the number of doctors and we can give them a counterpart responsibility to serve in the rural areas, or we can just increase the number of doctors in the rural areas. Second is, we need to revive the licentiate medical practitioners like the practice we had before independence in the rural areas. The third one is to empower the graduates of BSc, that is Bachelor's of Science in Nursing, to start nursing practicing, which is like prevalent in several countries. Currently, the major problems that we are suffering from is the complete neglect of the primary healthcare system, and the second is the ratio. Talking about the primary healthcare system, today it's not very rampant, or let's say it is very dismal. Just go around looking for the nearest primary healthcare center. It will be very far away. Of course, not all areas have access to it, and its infrastructure will be very, very poor. What the author is saying is primary healthcare system should receive 3 times more the allocation in the budget than what is already being given. They should include the salaries also, the infrastructure also, and such other things. If you talk about the staff ratio, the ratio of nurses per doctor in the country is 0.06 per doctor, where the WHO says it should be 3 per doctor. So this is a very dismal picture. Again, in states like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, it's going lower and lower. So we have to focus on this small little things and look at the bigger picture later, like increasing the expenditure, increasing the staff, etc. And finally, we can reach a better scenario. Nextly, we'll talk about this important article of the Shakti Act of Maharashtra government. Now, this Shakti Act is important because this brings into picture the problem of sexual violence, sexual crimes, and how we are fighting it. But the authors in this article are saying that this is just a same old conventional method of bringing in stringent laws, of bringing in more authorities on wider definitions. This does not do anything to fix the criminal justice system of the country. The authors are saying that a proper and effective criminal justice system has several components, including fair and just laws, a robust investigative mechanism, a dynamic judiciary, and an adequate and an indispensable infrastructure. After the Nirbhaya case and others, several changes were made. The Verma committee came into existence, the recommendations were implemented, but what is lacking is the proper attention to the infrastructure and effective implementation of the criminal justice system. We should be more concerned about that, is what the author is saying. The authors are saying that there are some negatives in this bill. It's not randomly saying that the bill is not doing any good for the people, but the authors are saying there are something negatives in this bill that will affect the kind of functioning in the country and the kind of criminal justice system that we are experiencing in today's scenario. So what are these things? First is the patriarchal setup of this bill. The bill proposes to punish false complaints and false information regarding sexual offences. Now what happens here is, since there are punishment for false complaints and false information, most women don't even go to complain because they feel that they cannot prove what has happened to them, and in case they cannot prove it, there will be counter cases on them of defamation and those kind of things. So firstly, this denies women for going and charging a complaint. Second, this points out to how the patriarchal conception, the society looks at women as manipulative liars and unworthy of being trusted. And then you can talk about how women will be worried firstly, and those women who go file the complaint, and in case it's not proven, it will backfire on them. Apart from this, the bill talks about death penalty. It says death penalty will be given to those who are involved in this kind of activities like rape, acid attacks, and rape of the minors, etc. But the fact is that the bill is saying that it is adding a clause of heinous crimes. Problem with this is that the heinous, or the definition of heinous, is not mentioned, or it's not provided. As a result, it becomes ambiguous and it becomes at the disposal of the court to decide what is heinous and what is not heinous. We believe that even if heinous, or you can say this kind of death penalty, is a part of our statute book, it has not acted as a potent deterrent to prevent crimes. Even if there is death penalty, crimes keep happening again and again. And if there is a death penalty as such, judges don't give it to the people, and as a result, this has been more open for the thing to come forward. Next point about death penalty, you can say that if most of the times the perpetrator or the person who is there, who is committing this crime on the woman, happens to be a family relative, and if this is a family relative, the girl is stopped from going and complaining because they don't want to lose their family relative. Bigger drawback. Going further, what we can learn is that this bill says that the investigation should be completed within 15 days. the trial should be done in 30 days and the appeal should be done in 45 days. And if it is not done, what will happen is not mentioned. If it is failed to be done, what will happen is not mentioned. And then in case if it is done, there might be problem of hurried nature of investigation, or there can be miscarriage of justice, because the police officers, the investigating officers will be hurried to complete the investigation. They will end up doing something wrong, or just by mistake something wrong could happen. So it not just puts the life of the accused, the life of the victim at risk, but also the career of the police officers at risk. So that this does not state, again I told you, it does not state about what will happen if the appeal on the investigation is not done on time. And in the current system, the police officers are having so many cases at their hand, so many things at their disposal, they will be suffering from bigger issues because of the bill. Lastly, the authors are saying that this is just redundant proposal. We already had these kind of things when it comes to sexual harassment in the section 354E of the IPC. We had the Information Technology Act. We had several such provisions. Bringing this provision again and again was not needed, because with stricter and draconian laws, rather effective implementation, proper setup of the infrastructure, proper movement of the things, if those were done in the right regard, everything will be set down and the grassroots level should be worked upon, and not the overall thing should be made more and more tougher for the people of the country. So this is what this author and the authors in this article are saying, that the most important thing that needs to be done is to be worked on the infrastructure and the legal system than on bringing more and more laws, redundant laws. That's it from today's R Radio, guys. Thank you so much for staying tuned, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Until next time, stay safe, take care, bye bye.